Councilman Bundy?
Present.
Councilman Brennan?
Present.
Councilman McCain?
Present.
Councilman Pope?
Present.
Mayor Sykes?
President, let the record reflect that we do have a quorum for the meeting July 13th, 2020. Before we get into anything, gentlemen, I need to add in the discussion decision on implementation of the public safety tax relief proposal. And the reason I need to add it is because we have to let the state know by Friday the 17th if we want to participate.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilman Bundy.
I'd like to make a motion that we add a discussion decision on the implementation of the public safety tax relief proposal. And the reason this needs to be added to the agenda tonight is because we have to let them know by Friday the 17th if we want to participate.
I'll second the motion.
It's been motioned and second. I'll call for the question. Councilman Bundy.
Aye.
Councilman McCain.
Aye.
Councilman Brennan.
Aye.
Councilman Stokes.
Aye.
All righty, run down to item number 2, the presentation of the Citizens Award. So Chief Connors, come on down.
All right. Bryce, can you come join us up here for a second? So this is Mr. Bryce Villalobos, and we have a little story to tell about him. So we had a patient leave one of the extended care facilities and wander off, and the patient suffers from dementia. And Officer Hanson located this patient and was trying to convince the patient to return to the assisted living facility to no avail. I don't want to go back. I don't like it there, et cetera, whatever the problem. And so Mr. Villalobos here was somehow found out about it, and he showed up on his day off. Apparently he has pretty good rapport with this patient, and he's a chef at the facility. And he showed up and convinced him that if he'd go back with him, he'd cook him his favorite meal, and got him to go back. And so Officer Hanson was kind of, at a standstill with this gentleman until Mr. Villalobos showed up. So we call an Outstanding Service Award. And so I'm just going to take a minute. We're not to be in a hurry. So I'm going to take a minute and read this. And we'd like to thank you for what you've done for the police department. So here it says Outstanding Service Award. This award is proudly presented to Bryce Antonio Villalobos in recognition with sincere appreciation and deep gratitude of your outstanding citizenship on behalf of the Mountain Home Police Department and the city of Mountain Hope, Idaho. On June 20th, 2020, your compassion and understanding made all the difference in helping an elderly dementia patient that had left his assisted living facility and would not return. Even on your day off, you responded to the patient's location, sat with him, and were able to convince him to return to the assisted living facility with you. Officers also heard you offered the patient a ride to make him some food and sit with him and visit as long as he wanted. Thanks to you, the situation resolved with the least amount of discomfort and stress to the patient. Your actions showed great character and truly kind heart. Thank you for being such an upstanding member of our community, awarded this 13th day of July, 2020, signed by the Chief of Police and Mayor Rich Sykes.
Thank you.
So, congratulations. So, Officer Hanson has something he'd like to give you.
Beyond that, we have a Mountain Home Police Department challenge going for you, just to kind of commemorate the whole ordeal for you.
Thank you. Thanks again.
Yeah, thank you.
Appreciate you. What's that?
It's down to 70.
Yeah.
And we will have icicles on our
No, we could probably stand one.
All right, we'll run down to, thanks, Chief. We'll run down to item number 3, recognize a person in the audience that would like to comment. You got 3 minutes. Would anybody here like to get up and speak? Go ahead, Raymond. Come on down.
I think this is worse with less people in here. So I'd like to talk about, and I know it's on your agenda, I think today too, about the closure in front of on South Second East. As far as the closure now, it seems to me that we could probably move those barriers back a little farther to allow parking in front of my business and Jerry's. It's just watching this weekend, people trying to come in there, and I don't know obviously that they were trying to come to our businesses or not, but they would get to the stop sign. You could tell people were looking around trying to figure out what they were going to do and just drive off and not come back. And there was probably, just in the times that I popped outside on Friday or Saturday night, I probably counted at least 20 cars that went around and never came back. Not to say that they were coming to the bar, but I mean, at this point with 80% of our business locked down on the base, 5 or 6 customers would have made a whole world of difference to us, and Jerry's as well. I mean, they certainly haven't seemed to be super busy at this point either. And I'm curious if we have to leave those closure barriers there, or can we move them farther down closer to the Paul's area where people can still come in and park in front of our businesses comfortably? Because even, I mean, at this point, if we have a busy day or Jerry's has a busy day or whatever, one or the other of us is going to eat up all of our parking. And we can't, I mean, obviously Albertsons lets people park there and doesn't have an issue, but we can't rely on Albertsons parking lot to be our parking lot. So if we're gonna, and I don't know, I know you guys are talking about what the final plan is gonna be for the closure of that area. I mean, I'd certainly like to be involved in that. I don't know what the rules are as far as hanging out past me talking here, but it's certainly, if that's the way it's gonna be, it certainly put a damper on our business, and I know it's put a damper on Jerry's business as far as just people getting in and out of there. I don't know what the possibility is of moving that or what we need to do to facilitate that. I mean, it's just in a bad spot. And even the changing of the signage might also help. Instead of saying detour and road closed, maybe, put a sign up that says road closed to through traffic.
Okay.
Or, to make it look like the road is actually still open. Because essentially, from what I understand, obviously I own that property halfway into the road. If we're going to abandon that road, then I'd like my property back and be able to do whatever I want with it. Make it parking for my customers. I don't know how all the legalities of that work. I'm sure that's a whole nother meeting. But as far as, I mean, if that's no longer a road, do I have to keep the sidewalks as a double sidewalk? I mean, do I have to have all that, or can I actually make that parking in front of my business and utilize it for my business? And can Jerry do the same thing? I mean, they have to come and make their own argument, I guess. But I mean, it just doesn't seem right that we're closing off access to businesses, especially right now when we were just closed for 2 months. The base is closed down to where they can't come out. So we're struggling for every customer we can at this point. I mean, I've lost 80% of my business overnight with the base not allowed to come out. So, 5 or 6 extra customers makes a world of difference. I mean, we're certainly struggling, and I mean, I don't know if we can delay part of this, or I mean, I know you guys want to get the project done, but it just doesn't. And I'm excited about the project. Don't get me wrong, but I mean, it just doesn't seem like the right time when downtown businesses are trying to reopen from this whole mess anyway. That we're gonna make it harder to get to them, harder to park in front of their businesses and everything else. I mean, I know it's the ball's rolling and things are in motion, but if there's any way we can delay that or do anything else. And I know I talked a little bit to Brad and to Gene that said that the state engineers had already kind of made their decision, but kind of curious why we can't just alleviate part of that sidewalk at the end of at the intersection and make that intersection line up and not force the fire department to have to spend $20,000 to put an arm in when they could still utilize that road. It would still line up with the new lane. And in my mind, of course, my mind works differently than reality sometimes, but in my mind, they could take out part of that sidewalk, extend the arm on that stoplight, have it line up with the new lane, and make it a one-way pass through there where the fire department doesn't have to invest much money, and that's still a usable road.
Roger that.
So
Okay, I'll get with Gene, then we'll talk about moving that at least down further, and then just say it's not a road closed to through traffic. We'll get some signage. We'll fix it for you. I've been down there, so I didn't, kind of outside out of mind, didn't know it was there until I saw it this morning. And actually, we were thinking, why is it locked up? But okay, we'll take care of you. We'll definitely, thanks for coming. And
then I know you guys are gonna discuss that farther in the meeting.
Mhm.
I don't want to take anybody else's spot with limited spacing, but how, can I be here for that discussion, or is that something that's not cool right now with the,
Yeah.
I don't want to take up anybody else's spacing, because I know there's people waiting outside to get in here, so.
I think,
And I'll go stand outside until that part of the meeting. I mean,
I don't think we
wanna
have
take
any
it.
discussion right now for,
Old business.
oh,
Stop
oh,
signs being
oh, that's
switched.
right. Yep. Yeah, you can, we're more the merrier.
Do I need to wait outside until that portion? I don't want to take up anybody's space. I mean, I know there's other
Go
people.
hang out with
waiting
that
outside.
motley crew in there.
Well, there's a seat right there.
Oh, your seat's right there. Your seat's right there.
Well, but there's other people that need to get in. I don't want to.
I don't think there's anybody else out there waiting. Is there, Chief?
Yeah, I think that maybe airport. I have something too.
Okay.
I'll go hide in there and.
Or you can sit right there.
Couple of them.
Yep.
Okay.
Thanks, Raymond. We'll fix it for you.
All right, thank you.
Gentlemen, come on down. I'd like to speak for 3 minutes.
Can I take this off?
Whatever you feel
You can hear me
comfortable with.
There's some information for the city to go up on websites. If each one of the council member can take, and the mayor takes a copy of that. Okay, my name is Bud Adams. I'm a retired CenturyLink employee, and I have Bud's telephone service here in Mountain Home. I'd like to talk about the future of the proposed residential fiber optics in Mountain Home. I have worked with the internet for years. I checked online today and found 13 internet providers for Mountain Home listed. These are wired, satellite, and cellular services. The term fiber seems to assume that all issues are taken care of. Fiber is only a path to get on the internet. All internet systems, including one with fiber, have to pass through the local telephone company in order to get to the network providers. Each company has an individual access point installed in the telephone office for this purpose. The city of Mountain Home will have to pay tariffs, also known as taxes, for all the traffic it generates. Fiber does not guarantee fast service. It can provide service only as fast as the source that you are trying to get to. Thus, Netflix and Amazon will slow down during peak traffic times. Leasing out your fiber to another communication company may not be the answer. According to an internet technician coworker, Syringa, change pages here, an internet provider company has stated that fiber rental is not desirable since there are so many choices for the internet. You would have to have 24-hour customer support for your customers. This is important for any communication company. 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. will not work. Customers need help at all times and levels. Inside support and outside installation requires high wages and benefits for your employees. Can our city afford this? On your existing fiber city installation, have you notified Digline with your current buried locations? Did you install a locate tracer wire in the fiber to locate the fiber? When the fiber gets cut, it is an involved process to repair. It will take hours and sometimes days. I have included a link to a website below that talks about the pros and cons of fiber networks. The first part talks about all the pluses and it sounds very exciting. Read it all and find out the minuses also. Mountain Home may not be the best fit for a fiber network. The next two lines are the fiber internet link. One last comment. Technology changes fast. As an example, how long have you owned your current phone? Is the city ready to jump into providing the service that will probably change enough in 10 years as to be unrecognizable to what we are providing now? An example, Elon Musk, the CEO of SpaceX Corporation, is in the process of installing global satellites to provide world service projected to be better than our fiber systems. I really believe that this fiber project will be financially devastating for our town, especially the installation costs from your fiber to the customer's modem, considering the time it would take for the complete city. And you're welcome to call for any additional questions.
Thanks, Mr. Adams.
I cut it a lot, keeping it in 3 minutes. There's a lot more details if you need more.
I appreciate it. Thanks, bud.
Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
You like climate, don't you?
Would anybody else like to get up and speak? We asked anybody out in the, if they would like to get up and speak. Chief, please. All righty. We'll run down to item number 4, council comments. Councilman, you got anything really quick?
Mr. Mayor?
Councilman Stokes.
I just looked on Central District Health and we are at 103 COVID cases right now for Elmwood County. And we are at 33 in the last week. So we are experiencing a spike here.
Any other councilman really quick? It doesn't have to be really quick. Okay. We'll run down to the consent agenda. Item number 5, Councilman.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilman Bundy.
real quick, if we could, I'd like to leave the airport in the consent agenda, but I'd like to have the opportunity. I know that, if I understand the process right, we had the airport board make the selections. Is that correct?
Most of them, yes.
Most of them?
Yep.
If they could just maybe stand up, identify themselves, or any from the board, just so that we can kind of get to know them a little bit, see if there's any.
Are you talking about candidates for the board, or are you
Yes.
talking about people who are currently on the board?
The candidates.
Candidates. So,
But you can come in as a committee board member on the candidates if you like.
Do you want the other
Actually,
people from outside
yeah.
in here?
It might be better to do it at a later time or whatever, because as a board member, I was actually not consulted about the candidates.
Okay, so that would be okay.
go ahead. Come on.
I'm Ian Workout, I'm on the list. Yep. Any questions?
Just maybe a little bit about yourself, a little bit about your background.
Sure. I started flying when I was 18 and been living on an airport for the last 20 years. And my wife took a job in Mountain Home at St. Luke's as a doctor. And I moved off of an airport onto here into Mountain Home and over near Legacy Park and just bought an airplane and have it over here at Tom Hope's hangar at the moment. So.
Miss Justin, Martin.
Justin Page.
Justin, okay. A little bit about yourself.
My name is Justin. I've lived in Idaho for about 38 years. Been flying since I was 18 in the Civil Air Patrol. Just have a commercial pilot's license. I have 625 hours total time. So I'm still trying to get up there. I have a Cessna 150 that I use to keep current and to build time until that right job comes around. I'm currently full-time as a aircraft mechanic for the Idaho Air National Guard. I work on the A-10 C Warhog there in Boise. I love aviation, and I want to make the airport a positive place to bring my children and to myself and not have it stagnant.
You know, gentlemen, I'm assuming not here. Bob?
Well, I've already spoken. No, I guess I'll stand. My name is Bob Durham-Wines. I work currently out at the Mountain Home Airport. I'm the ANPIA for the FBO out there. I've been in aviation since about 1982. I started at the bottom, just as a ground handler. I've worked at several corporations. I've worked for Beechcraft. I've worked for Mooney. I'm retired from United Airlines. I've worked at several FBOs, which are fixed base operations in the Reading area. I was on the airport commission of Red Bluff and Reading. I'm factory trained for most of the aircraft that I work on. I've worked for the Department of Defense overseas on Black Hawk helicopters for a contractor. I work contract mostly now after I retired. I was working for L3 Contracting. I worked at Travis Air Force Base for 4 years, where I was I was the lead in the sheet metal overhaul shop. I was the lead in United. So I've got quite a bit of experience in the aircraft industry. I wanted to be, originally, I wasn't really looking forward to being on the, applying for the opening on the Airport Advisory Commission. And that was mainly because I wanted to dedicate more of my time on working the aircraft and generating clientele for the aircraft, for the airport out there. My hopes and everything were to make the airport a viable asset to the city and to make it grow, since I've been with a couple of airports that have grown that were very similar to Mountain Home. And they're now, one of them is now the 9th busiest aircraft or airport in California. And I was fortunate to be part of it. I look forward to doing it. My whole career and everything has been aviation. I love aviation. I love the service of the people that own aircraft. I love working on aircraft. And that's pretty much where I wanted to be, was working on this. So that's basically where I've come from.
Thanks, Bob.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilman Brennan.
I'd like to remove item E and G from the consent agenda.
All righty. Council, do you have anything A through G that you want to discuss, poll, answer any questions for you guys? No? All right. What do you guys want to do with the consent agenda?
Mr. Mayor,
Councilman Brennan.
make a motion to pass the consent agenda as printed, removing items E and G.
Do I have a second? Second. Second. The motion to approve the consent agenda as printed, removing E as an I.
E's and Edward.
Edward, okay, and then G. I'll call for the question. Councilman Stokes. Aye. Councilman McCain.
Aye.
Councilman Bundy. Aye. Councilman Brennan.
Aye.
Discussion decision on recommendation from the Traffic Safety Committee to change the corners of the stop signs to sit on South 2nd East and East 2nd South, as well as East 3rd South and South 2nd East. Action item. Councilman.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilman Stokes.
being that I sit on that traffic safety as an advisor, we put this forth to speed up access for the fire department for public safety. So I would concur with the traffic safety committee, and if there's any other discussion items, we can talk about it. It's basically just flipping the stop signs.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilman Brennan.
can we have the fire chief step in for a minute?
Chief. Come in.
Thanks. We took a quick walk out there this afternoon, and one question that was raised is this decision being done with the intent of the fire apparatus thoroughfare through the area of, the stockyard and Jovial Jerry's out to the stoplight, or is it being done without consideration for that? Like, no matter where that project takes us?
I thought you guys, your intent was just to expedite it all directions.
Yeah.
That's what I was done. And then we'd come back with the rural asking about the gate.
Right. Okay. So we would want to press forward with this regardless of the gate, so to speak. Is that right?
That
As far
was
as
my intention. Councilman Stokes, sorry.
My bad. The intent was that, okay, this 3rd Street right in front of City Hall is just a straight shot, right?
Mhm.
So you get speeders coming in here, and then if the fire department needs to go this way, they have to stop at the stop sign.
Okay.
Let's flip it so that they can.
You're talking this intersection right here?
Right here.
Okay, so that's what brings me to my next question. And I probably could have asked, but I just realized it now, so I apologize. But the way this is printed, this is not indicating this intersection right here. It's indicating the intersection of fire department, Joe Jerry's stockyard, and the auto body shop, and then the one next to it at Ratliff Law Offices. So I think the agenda is misprinted if that's the intent, Councilman Stokes.
It was the recommendation I got, so the agenda goes with the recommendation.
Yes. So Chief, what was the intersection again? It's Third and, Third? Is that Third out there?
Yes, east, this is east second here.
Or is it? So Commercial Tire is, so it's Second East, East Second South, and North Third East.
Correct.
North Third East, East Second South.
This is South 30s in front of us right here.
And just to the north, they're just the other side of American.
And then the one by the rural was the one we wanted too, right? On Third and Third? Memory serves me correct?
Third and second, I think.
Mr. Mayor.
Councilman Brennan.
The first intersection identified on here, South Second East and East Second South, is the intersection of the fire department, Joe Jerry's stockyard. That one is correctly indicated, I believe. It's the second one on the agenda that I suppose, in my opinion, is not the correct intersection, which it says East Third South and South Second. So South Second remains the one in front of Fire Station and goes down the next intersection to
Ratliff
Law Offices.
Councilman Brennan, I believe you're correct. I think it was just,
That's the wrong one. It should have been this.
Okay.
all of them, we fix that in the middle of
Just
the
amend the agenda. It was just a Scrivener's error.
Tell me again what they should be, so I can fix this, the recommendation
So
and
it's-
the agenda.
South Third East,
Very bottom line, South 30 East, not South Second East.
South Third East, and
Third,
Second, East Second South.
east, not East Third South, East Second South.
East Second South.
And so the South Second East and East Second South is correct.
You just read the first one on here?
Yes. South Second East, East Second South, and East Second South, and South Third East.
I cannot keep the road straight in this
That
town.
one right
I swear.
there.
I just can't.
South Third East. Yeah. And then the other one is East Second South.
Yeah.
This one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mr. Mayor?
Councilman Stokes.
I think given the minimal impact on traffic, I think this recommendation should be considered by the council.
Mr. Mayor.
Councilman Brennan.
Also, just an item of thought at the one by the fire department, that's essentially going to be a T intersection as planned, depending on where we go with the discussion of parking in front of there. What, with Raymond here, what I totally understand what he's saying. He wants to push that back. The back, I guess the negative aspect of that will be either one, creating cars to do a U-turn in the road, or two, using the Paul's parking lot as a thoroughfare to exit out of there. Once they're in there, the light intersection will be closed. So anybody getting in there will have to do a U-turn or cut through the parking lot, which is illegal.
Can I comment? They're doing it anyway. So the day, we
Go
stood
ahead,
out there for a half hour, the day that it got closed down, and there was 2 pickups with trailers on that drove through the parking lot. There was almost a semi that almost took out your stoplight that you want to get rid of, so it would save some money because they about wiped it out. There was probably, in the 20 minutes that we stood out there and watched, there was probably pretty close to 3 vehicles that went through were about ready to cause accidents. So they're doing it either way, and they're going to do it no matter what, unless you can talk Albertsons to let you close that parking lot off permanently. It's going to happen whether they're at that end or wherever they close it off. That's been that way even when the road wasn't closed. People drive through there constantly. So I don't know what the solution is for that, but they're going to go through there regardless of where the barriers are.
Put a toll gate in.
All right. Councilman Brennan.
Sorry, I wanted to continue with that, is that that's by flipping the signs, it's essentially gonna be a T intersection, right? With no traffic going into the parking area as described over here. So when we talk about speeding up the route for the fire department, you're putting a stop sign in for the fire department. And so that totally changes it. Because the stop signs are this direction right now, and the one stop sign would be this direction from in front of the fire department.
Mr. Mayor, didn't we want to make it so that the fire department could come out without the stop signs, and the stop signs would stop the regular traffic? So we're saying the same. Right? So when we have these here, this road here, just so I understand that, that's the road that we wanted to slow down so that the fire department could come out, go behind Paul's and make a left-hand turn here to get out, correct? So is that what you're questioning? Maybe I don't understand your
That's
question.
completely accurate. I'm just talking about the intersection strictly at the corner of the firehouse. So by this plan, there will be a stop sign put in place at the corner of the fire department. So any truck coming out will have to stop.
Right. So yeah, I get what you're saying now. You're right. So like right here, we're gonna stop these.
Yeah.
So we put a stop sign, so when they come out, they're gonna hit that stop sign and they can still, come through here and go.
Okay. Gotcha. It's a valid point.
Remember that. I remember the conversation for right here. This was our initial.
Yeah, this
right?
was the real
Mr.
goal.
Mayor,
When we had
the conversation that I remember was this
this one right
intersection
here.
and the one down from that one, not
Correct,
the
not the
one
one
by
by
the fire
the
station.
on
That's what,
Yeah, on
Okay.
Second, brother.
I think there,
Mr. Mayor, Councilman Stokes.
I think there was a scribe error somewhere in here because I don't think this is correctly on the agenda.
Mr.
From what I
Mayor,
remember.
Councilman Brennan.
I think we need to table this again until
Yes.
we get it right.
Roger that. All right. We will,
That's good.
table that one. We'll get it right.
Mr. Mayor, can I make one more comment?
You bet.
Is there any I know when I talked to Brad, that the state had engineered that whole intersection already. Is there any way that the state can relook at that? To just cut a piece of that big island sidewalk out and make that still a usable intersection?
It was Horrocks that engineered that, and I think they're still looking at it because the rural wanted to put a gate. So we're still trying to figure out how do we line it up where the truck doesn't have to go like this and try to get back on there. So we're still looking at everything. So nothing's finalized as of yet.
There's a lot of sidewalk there they could get rid of.
Yeah.
And move over either to the other side. And you could bring out those sidewalks or whatever, or even make parking areas, whatever, to make that lane to work. Because there's no lane distinctions there at all right now. There's no lines down the road. There's nothing. So people still, even when the road was open, people are confused if they can go both ways, how they come in and out of there. I mean, so even making it a one-way only through there to stop as much traffic going through Paul's parking lot might make sense. But I mean, if they can cut a piece of that huge island sidewalk out and just align that with the new lanes going down, then the fire department doesn't have to spend that money to put the gate in. It's still a usable road. It doesn't get a ton of traffic, but I mean, obviously, to Councilman Brennan's point, you don't want people having to make constant U-turns to get in and out of there either. It's a wide enough road to where you can, and it's safe, but you don't want that to be the ultimate goal of how people have to get in and out of there either. Either that or using Paul's parking lot as a bypass to get in and out.
Okay. All righty. So we're going to table that till next council meeting, and then, or Councilman Buddy.
Doesn't this have this one and this one? East, second, south. I don't, unless I'm misreading this, I don't see an address that has a stop sign by the fire station.
Fire station's right here.
So right there and there, okay. Yeah, we need to get it right. We need to- First and Second Street.
Mr. Mayor, and I also think it might be depending on which map you're using, whether it's Google or
Right.
iPhone map, whatever.
Yeah, we'll get it right.
We'll get it right. All right, we'll run down to discussion decision on the new fire inspection fee for mobile food truck vendors. Chief and Brian, come on in. Fire Marshal. You guys are up.
The state will be adopting the 2018 version of the International Fire Code, which they may have already done that with COVID. I haven't kept track of where they're at with their government, where they're at in government stuff. But that will be adopted and become effective January 1st of 2021. As you all know, the food truck industry is a huge industry, and it's coming fast and furious. And fire protection as a whole across the country has been behind the ball from the get-go. So in the new International Fire Code, there is a specific code directly regulating and overseeing fire safety for mobile food vending units, and it covers a whole bunch of different things. So as a city, we already adopt the International Fire Code as our code. So when the new code comes into effect in January, we will automatically adopt that new code for mobile food trucks. What we are proposing, I have been a part of a coalition of 9 departments between Middleton and Mountain Home of creating a single individual inspection that will handle all 9 jurisdictions. The fee that we came up with was kind of based off of the minimums that a couple of departments could charge based on their city ordinances. So all 9 of the jurisdictions agreed that we were good with the $45 fee. And then we will all have an individual, or we will all have a single inspection form. So it doesn't matter if you are from Mountain Home and you go to Boise to do an event up there, you have a sticker on it and you're good to go. And vice versa. If they come from there down here, we would all be following the same inspection. So the $45 fee will cover, there's going to be a sticker, which we added that in, the time to do the inspection, and then just administrative stuff. And again, that's agreed on standard fee that all 9 of the jurisdictions will use. Yearly, that'll be a yearly fee. Yeah.
Okay. Councilman, you got any questions for
Mayor?
Reed?
Brian, would this include also the,
anything that is not brick and mortar?
okay, so like the
If they
shed
serve
that's down at the,
food cart, food booth, portable building,
okay,
food truck, food trailer, anything that is not brick and mortar that provides any type of food or beverage will be covered under this. They will be held to the same standards that the brick and mortar businesses are held to for fire safety.
Councilman Bundy?
So reading through the discussion items here, the reason that you're coordinating with other cities is so like if they come here from city A and they have their proper fire code, and it works for them to come into Mountain Home for an event or something like that.
Yes. So if they are based in Nampa and they want to come here for AFAD, this would fall on the organizers for AFAD, but they would have to have a fire inspection sticker. And we're going to color code them so that every year you can just walk by and go, oh, there's a red sticker. It's from wherever. It would say Mountain Home on ours, because then if there was ever an issue, the chief from Boise could say, hey, Brian, did you go do, this food truck? And I could go back and say, yeah. So,
Thank you.
Councilman Brennan, sorry.
Could you describe what you talk about in here, solid fuels?
wood, coal. So like red ember oven does wood. Full camas does briquettes, or so anything that creates fuel, or anything that's a fuel that creates fire or heat or fire safety issues. So
Okay.
propane, yeah, that's solid.
You also, in your letter here, looks like there's two different letters. You said that the state of Idaho will adopt it. And then in the next letter, you said they're planned to adopt it. Do we know, is it final? Like you said, it's not final.
So the second letter that you have, so the first letter is addressed to mayor and council. The letter that I think you're referencing says 2018 International Fire Code, mobile food vending. That is a letter that, once this ordinance is done, I will take that to vendors and give them as much time as we can that says, hey, this is coming down the pike. They're going to adopt it the 1st of January, and you will be responsible for following those fire codes. So that is a letter that, if this is adopted, we'll get out, give them as much time as they can to make sure that they have any questions and all things are in place.
So I have a question too. You said anything that's not brick and mortar. Do like trailers or carts that simply serve drinks, is that really necessary?
If they have a fuel source that creates a fire hazard, then yes. Propane, if they have electricity, anything like that that could be a fire hazard, then yes.
So if they plug into something for electricity, then we're gonna regulate them?
We're gonna, make sure that everything is compliant with fire safety. And the other thing goes beyond that is to make sure that they have a fire extinguisher. Everyone out there should have a fire extinguisher to make sure that they just have all of the safety, fire safety appliances on board that they need. Obviously, it's going to be different from your little hot dog cart that just has one propane bottle of boiling water. It's going to be much different than Savory Lanes, who has a full-blown.
Much different, but the same inspection.
Yeah,
Same
because they'll still have to have the sticker and the inspection.
Okay.
So, Mr. Mayor, is our decision to such today since it's a fee, we're gonna have to have a public hearing on this? So we're deciding if we want to go forward on this, correct? It looks like we pretty much have to because the state's doing that on the 1st, correct?
Yes.
1st of January, I say.
1st of January, it'll become effective.
Yeah.
Within the state.
And I think it's a good thing that we have the food trucks meet safety standards and things like that, so.
Yeah, and get on YouTube and put food truck explosion, and it's fire and explosion after fire after fire after fire. 2 people killed this time, 24 sent to the hospital that time, 10 people injured on this one. So it really is about protecting our citizens and the people that use those, making sure that they're safe from doing that.
And like I said, with the public hearing, then we want to make sure that we give everyone ample time before January 1 hits as well to get everything. If they're not in compliance, you get ready to be in compliance.
So do we need to make a motion or do we just get
Set a motion hearing.
Public hearing.
A question real quick, Mayor.
Go ahead, Councilman Brennan.
Just last thing before, if we vote for a public hearing here, before that were to happen, could you provide the council with section 319 so we can review it as to what we're truly passing?
Yes, yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Yep. Thank you.
All right. Councilman, what do you guys want to do?
Mr. Mayor,
Councilman Stokes.
I'll make a motion to go forth with a fire inspection fee for mobile food vendors. And we have to set a public hearing out for August 10th.
Second.
The motion and second. I'll call for the question. Councilman Brennan.
Aye.
Councilman Bundy.
Aye.
Councilman Stokes.
Aye.
Councilman McCain.
Aye.
All right. Stay there, guys. We'll run down to discussion decision on a new fire permit fee schedule. You guys ready?
Basically, this is creating a legitimate list of fire inspections so that when somebody comes into Brenda and says, I need an inspection for this, she will know exactly what permit to issue. And then with that, each permit will have an application because a fire sprinkler application is going to be required certain things. Make sure you have this, make sure they've been submitted to the state fire marshal's office. So it will clean up some back and forth between Brenda and whoever's applying for the permit, Brenda and I,
I am the contractor. It will just kind of streamline things and make it much easier. The other thing is, we have 2 inspections, either a commercial hood inspection or a fire inspection. That's it. So it's $20 to do a fire inspection. Well, when I get the permit, that's all it says is fire inspection. So I have to then either get hold of Brenda, or get hold of the contractor and find out what we're doing. And then again, what we need to get that inspection done, so.
Any comments on that one, Councilman, or questions? Mayor, Council Brennan?
On your table that you wrote here, are all of these inspections required by state? Or
They all have international fire code codes that would oversee all of those inspections. So by the state, yes, they're required.
are these just one time, like a wood stove fireplace?
Yeah, it's just the one, those are, other than daycare, those should all be just one-time inspection.
All of these other than daycare? Tenant improvement?
Yep, other than a daycare inspection, and then the new mobile food vendor unit will just be a one-time inspection. So that will be whenever they go to the building department and get their permit for Pioneer Silver Credit Union, then they'll have all of that. They'll do their construction, we'll do the inspections, and then we'll be done. Daycares are required separate based on the state requirements. It might be once a year, once every other year. But that's based on state. So.
I have a question. Are these new fees or are these fees you charge right now?
These will all be new fees. We only charge $20 for a general fire inspection.
I just wanted to know. We have
So
a public
these would,
hearing,
yes,
so.
these would all be new fees.
So we need a public hearing.
These fees are based off of, I did kind of an assessment of what all of the valley did, an assessment on how much time it takes us and invest in doing these things, and trying to make them fair and consistent with what other agencies do. So everything is in line, other than Boise and Meridian, because of the way they do things. They are all very much in line with what all of the other surrounding agencies do.
Any other comments?
We need another public hearing. Mayor? Councilman Bundy?
I'd like to make the motion that we move forward on the new building fire fees and set a public hearing for August 10th, a good date for that one, for August 10th.
Second.
The motion in second, I'll call for the question. Councilman McCain?
Aye.
Councilman Brennan?
Aye.
Councilman Stokes?
Aye.
Councilman Bundy?
Aye.
All right, thanks, guys. Discussion decision on renewal of cooperative agreement with the Elmore County for animal shelter services.
Mr. Mayor?
Councilman Stokes.
Okay, I reached out to Danelle at the animal shelter. I kind of wanted to get some rough numbers on what we spend out at the animal shelter, and take a look at this agreement, which talks about $3,000 or $3,090 for all the money we put in. Our 2017-18 budget was $226,000. We took in 711 animals that together, 120 were county owned. So roughly that was 16.88% of what we're funding, what the Mountain Home citizens are funding. 2018 and 19, our budget was $236,000. Took in 656 animals. The county had 106 of those. So I do not like this agreement. According to my math, we should have gotten in 17-18 $38,148, and 18 and 19 $38,137. If we're talking about fair and equal.
So right now, your citizens of Mountain Home are subsidizing the county.
Correct.
Mayor,
Councilman Brennan.
I definitely understand what Councilman Stokes is saying, and I think there could be some work in here. I don't think sharing the exact percentage is fair either, because For instance, to my knowledge, and Chief, correct me if I'm wrong, the county, if they have an animal, whether it's only thing I've ever seen is a deputy take those animals to the animal shelter. So the county's not using our vehicles, our animal shelter vehicles, and I'm sure there's some other stuff that I feel like it would be unfair to just a simple percentage. 16% of the animals, therefore 16% of the budget comes from them. That doesn't pencil out in my mind.
Oh, I apologize. Finish up. No, I'm thinking along the same lines. We're a good neighbor with the county. There's certain expenses that are incurred in running the animal shelter. The building's going to have to be there. The amount of employees we have is still going to be there. So if we set up some different pay scale, we've budgeted it. We have the money there. This is one of those things where I don't want to get into like how many city people go use a county thing and we end up trying to split out like that. I think it's a good discussion to have. I think we're along the same lines on this view. I think this is kind of a good neighbor thing where in this case, we seem to take a little bit more of the burden on this one, and there's other things that the county takes a little bit more of the burden on this one. So I'm glad we're having the discussion, but I think the agreement as we have it now is fine. I think it is. I think we go ahead on this one, and if we want to talk about it for the next time, see if there's another little bit of adjustment we could make. But I think right now, with our budget set, the county budget set, I'm okay this time if we're kind of pulling a little bit more on this one. We pull the weight on the airport, and I'm sure county people come in and use that. We pull the weight on the parks, and county people do that. But the Glens Ferry out of the parks out there the other day, and I'm from Elmore County, and they didn't ask me what county I was from. I go right around their skate park. I wanted to see their skate park, and I know that there's people from Elmore County that still use their skate park, and I hope they come and use our skate park. So, I would agree with Councilman Brennan that in this case, I think we're good.
Yeah.
But it's a good question. It's a good discussion to have.
Councilman Brennan.
Question for you and the chief is there any fees assessed to individuals who have animals come in, like a release fee? I have no idea.
Chief?
Do you know? Okay.
I think it'd be normal, right? You gotta bail your dog out or cat out. I mean,
that would be my only thought is if there's a bail set for a dog or cat, that perhaps that bail could be a little higher for a county resident than a city resident. But yeah, that's where I stand on that.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilman Stokes.
I'm going to disagree with Councilman Bundy and Councilman Brennan. I think the fee should be higher. I think $25,000, and someone should go in front of county commissioners and negotiate that.
Mayor,
Councilman Brennan.
and to argue that point, we have to be careful, right? Because we do fund a lot of things, but they have us around the neck for dispatch services.
Yeah.
If they want to say they don't want to dispatch for us anymore, we're hosed. So, gotta play nice.
Mr. Mayor?
Probably weird coming from my mouth.
Mr. Mayor, how much is our dispatch agreement? What do we, anyone know?
I can
Stop the
tell
cup.
you. I
Close.
can go get it right now if you want.
Best guess.
I don't.
Is it 3,000? How much?
60-odd thousand.
Seems like a little more than 3,000 in my opinion.
Mayor,
Councilman.
I'll have to agree with both of them, not this gentleman, but I think for this year, I think that's fine. But I think we should use it for further discussion to talk about it. But 16% of the entire budget, I think, is a little high. I think 3,000 to 3,500 is more than sufficient.
Councilman Bundy.
I'd like to make a motion that we renew the cooperative agreement with Elmore County for animal shelter service.
I'll second.
One more thing.
Councilman Brennan.
You had
So, because everybody keeps saying like next year, right? By the timing of this contract, we're going to be in the same spot every single time. So can we give Nina a note to put this on the agenda like 6 months from now? so that it doesn't interfere with the county budget if we want to raise it?
Got her on there now?
I think that's a fantastic idea.
All righty, it's been motion and second. I'll call for the question. Councilman Brennan.
Aye.
Councilman Bundy. Aye. Councilman Stokes.
Nay.
Councilman McCain.
Aye.
All righty. Special decision on the first addendum of the West Side Sewer District. Action item. Councilman.
Yeah, we're just waiting on the paperwork so we can pay our bill. And suppose we have that here tonight.
Go ahead, Nina.
Mayor and council, what I actually told Mr. Gust, who apparently is not here, was that he needed to come, he probably wanted to come to the meeting to hear you discuss this new addendum, which I don't know what their bill's gonna be until you guys decide if you're gonna stick with the what they were supposed to pay the last 2 years and then increase for next year, or what your decision's gonna make. So
Council, my recommendation, because we took a little longer of getting this addendum done than normal, that we just do the normal rate fee that we would have anyways for these last 2 years. Keep it, this is just my recommendation, you guys do you, that we just charge them the normal rate we would have charged them for the last 2 years, and then have them going into 2021, do the new addendum. That's just me.
Mayor?
Councilman Brennan.
I guess a little background on this is when he says they're waiting for a bill, we messed up and we couldn't come to an agreement as a council, is this right? And then they didn't get a bill that is now a year old that they're eagerly anticipating paying, I assume.
2 years.
2 years of bills?
They owe for 2 years now.
2
At
years.
the end of, September, they will owe for this year. They owe for last year, which is not their fault. They did try to pay it.
Sure.
But we couldn't take it because we didn't know what the money amount was gonna be at that time.
And so this addendum would be an October 1 start 2021 date?
No, it would start, so at the present time, they're due to pay the amount that would have been due in 2019 through September 30th of 2019. And now they're due to pay what would be due through September 30th of 2020.
Okay.
So this agreement would start as of October 1st, 2021 to be due by September 30th of 2021. That's what I mean. This would start 2020, October 1st, 2020
Yes.
to be due September 30th, 2021.
Okay.
But that's if they agree with this. I don't
Right.
know where they are.
Right.
Wasn't the delay more?
Councilman Bundy.
I think the delay was not so much that we couldn't figure it out, as we were just waiting for the addendum, correct?
And to figure out how we wanted to write the addendum, correct?
And then meet with them.
We still don't.
Right.
Yeah.
This is
a
just,
draft.
we
This
still
is
don't,
the draft. We don't.
I still don't know.
Right.
I mean, we need,
Okay.
The West Side Sewer has not seen this at all and has not
I've
talked
had
about
the opportunity, yeah.
yeah.
Would this be a good time who's the best person to give us the 2-minute history of this? So that
You want to do it, Rich? Nina?
Probably Nina.
Wish Mayor Risk was here. I can do a little bit of it, but I'm not very good at it either. I know that there was, this agreement was done, the original agreement back in like 2007, I believe. And at that time, there was an agreement reached where the district gave us a certain amount of money that they had in their system so that we could continue to use their lines. We use a portion of the influent that goes into the sewer system goes through their line. And I believe, I haven't read this agreement lately, but I believe we were going to maintain the lines for that.
Camera and maintain it.
And because of that, they're people,
10 years.
yeah, and because of that, the people that live in that district could pay a lesser rate to the city. Okay, that's the short version.
I could add a little bit about
Okay,
that,
go ahead.
about why the necessity of addendum to this is basically that covers the infrastructure costs at the time that they bought into that, which that note will be paid off by 2029. The question that is unknown, and it's in the current agreement, it says that the parties will negotiate in good faith. Okay, well, we've got to do that now because that note will be paid off. And what's happened, unfortunately, is the mechanism that it was calculated at the time was that the rate was going to be at $3, and then it would be raised every 2 years by the consumer price index. Well, sewers systems and sewer infrastructure does not grow at the CPI. It might not grow as much some years and might grow quite a bit more in other years. And so the disconnect here is now that 13 years have gone by, the $3.24 or whatever it is per EDU does not match the $19.80 per EDU that every other citizen has to pay. And so that money that they bought in for was that current infrastructure that's being paid off on the note now. It does not address future replacement costs and for the ongoing M&O of the system, O&M of the system. And so something's got to be done to address it because right now we're kind of in a situation where we're in violation of our own Idaho Constitution, and we're in violation of about 2 or 3 other statutes that dictate that all enterprise funds are required to be, or enterprise systems are required to be self-sustaining. And so if one citizen is subsidizing other citizens for this device, or for the infrastructure, then we're arguably in violation of the Constitution because of that. And so, I mean, it says there in the black and white of the 2007 agreement, parties will negotiate in good faith. Probably should have done that about 10 years ago. And so it's time to do that. So.
And we use Keller's, who's been our engineers for how long? 25, 30 years. Yeah. And to treat the affluent, and we base it off of what, 70%?
Yeah.
Is what Keller's came back at for West Side Sewer District, which was $14 and
74% of what we pay. We pay $19.70.
Right.
It's $14.58.
That's right. And they've analyzed it well, and that's what I've been pouring my mind over about, because on the flip side, the district bought in back then in 2007, and they changed their boundaries a bit on it. And so, okay, well, what did that pay for? And so we had Keller go through and analyze that if the typical citizen is paying $19.80, then for that to be apples to apples, they'd be at about $14, because there's certain things that are not part of their system. They don't need it. And so they shouldn't be paying for that infrastructure. And then some of the other infrastructure they've already paid for. And so that's part of the debt service, the debt obligation. And that'll all be paid off in 2029. And then that'll clear the playing field, and then everybody should be about the same, largely, at that time. But it's for these the future costs and the O&M and the replacement, all the stuff that's coming down the pipe for their system too. And so we've got to get around the table and work this out.
Mr. Mayor?
Councilman Bundy.
What sounds like, from a legal perspective, is we renegotiate this price, that even with this increase of price, that still allows that water district to be compensated for the infrastructure that they gave to the city, correct?
Sewer district, yes.
Yes, the sewer district.
Yeah, and Keller has figured that out. And that's what we've been working on the last couple of days, about what do we put into the computation of their their EDU rate that is in ours, and it will not be in theirs. So they've done a pretty good job. Keller's done a great job of breaking that down nicely.
So even though
it was able to allow me to figure that out.
Okay. So we know there's an increase here, but it's less than our other citizens pay. It's in essence equal.
Yeah, it's an apple to an apple. It's a smaller apple for them.
Correct.
But it's because they don't.
But one group of citizens is not subsidizing another group of.
Which is what is happening right now.
Which is what's happening now.
That's right. Councilman Stowe.
I have a quick legal question about subsidizing.
There's no such thing as a quick legal question.
We're gonna take, for example,
But,
the animal shelter we just skipped over, well, passed.
I don't think that was skipped over, Counselor.
So, just based on it, if I'm paying 10 cents per year and someone else is paying 0 cents or close to zero, how's that fair when we're talking county government
Well,
versus city government?
That's the whole point of that it's improper to have one citizen subsidize those of the other, because that means other people. Now, it's not so simple because the city can choose to say, we've talked about this, for example, with senior citizens on their sewer bills and stuff like that. The city council can decide to use their general fund to subsidize a potential part of their community, and then you can kind of do that. But to give you a short legal answer to the short legal question is no, it's improper for one citizen to have to subsidize another citizen. So if one group is paying 10 cents and another group is paying 5 cents, why are they paying 10? And is the answer that everybody should be paying 7.5?
I like it.
You know, and so yes, and that is also now, again, you could subsidize as the city council if they wish to do so, but here's the kicker: is under the Idaho Constitution, is it has to be, it's an enterprise fund.
Yeah.
You can't just say, well, the sewer, we'll let the city council in 20 years have to deal with it when it all breaks down and there's no money. No, you don't get to do that. It has to be a self-sustaining system. You cannot undercharge on a sewer system, especially if there's a debt service on it, which there is. And so that's non-negotiable. It can't do that, regardless of what you think about animal control.
And you can't move that money anywhere else.
Right. Councilor Bundy.
But I think you're mixing apples and oranges a little bit when you're talking about general fund money and enterprise money.
Yes.
Absolutely.
They're totally different. Right.
Now with the dog ordinance, maybe it'd be 7 times that because, for every year a human lives 7 years, but not forget it.
All right, counselor, let's keep on this. So what do you guys want to do? We still have to meet with West Side and see if they're amenable to that. But
That's
this,
what I
hey, Rich,
recommend.
this met the future issues. If there's something breaks, we still would go and fix and all that like we normally do.
I wasn't in on the conversation with them, but if Keller did it, I'm sure that they were looking at those things, so.
The answer is no, though. It's not in black and white yet.
Right.
Well,
This is to go forth and meet with them in good faith.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilman Stokes.
I apologize for that short legal question, and I make a motion to go forth on the first addendum to the West Side Sewer District Agreement.
We need to add in there that we're going to pay the last 2 years at a certain rate.
Are they okay with that? Let them pay the rate they would have paid for the last 2 years so we can get that paid and then move forward with this starting October 1st.
May I ask the maker of the motion potentially to clarify what he means by saying that we'll go with the current rate until 2020, and then we will negotiate with the West Side Sewer District on the proposed addendum? Is that what you meant?
Yes.
I thought that's what you meant.
I'll second that motion.
All righty.
And can we get this meeting set up sometime in the near future? Very soon.
Yeah.
Figure out their board.
They have a board meeting on Thursday night.
So, okay.
I don't know if any of you can go to that one, but I asked them when their next board meeting was, and he said Thursday.
Is it a monthly meeting?
I don't,
Yeah.
All righty, Thursday. Yeah, I can make it. What time?
I think it's at 7. Is it 7?
Here or
They
PD?
need it, please.
On the hill up there.
PD?
So we'd have to have a quorum for the council vote too, right, or no?
Or you could, if it's going to be a group.
Does any councilman want to go? Amy, 7 o'clock, PD, Thursday? Thursday.
I'll try my best to be there. I have my work calendar in front of me.
You'd have to notice it.
That was gonna be my question. Am I noticing it or not?
If there's going to be 3 of them,
Yes,
then yes.
but okay.
Brad said
But when
no.
they say I think I might go, I'm gonna notice it.
Are you gonna be there?
Mike,
Mike, are you good?
That's what I'm checking right now,
I've
trying
got
to
a
figure out
conflict, but I
what.
can move it if there's only gonna be two. But if Mike's gonna be there, then
I'll be there. Yay, nay?
This
I can be there.
Thursday?
You won't be there.
Yeah, this Thursday.
Yeah, I think I can make it this Thursday.
So
I'll just coordinate with-
Or Brennan and Councilman McCain and all 9 of myself. Good? All right.
You need a motion.
Oh, it's been motion and second
Yeah, vote.
to have the West Side Sewer District pay the normal fee that they would have paid the last 2 years, and then meet with them on Thursday and discuss the addendum, correct? All right, so motion and second, I'll talk the question. Councilman McCain?
Aye.
Councilman Brennan?
Aye.
Councilman Bundy? Aye. Councilman Stokes? Aye. All right. Let's run down to new business. Items removed from the consent agenda, and we'll start out with E. Councilman Brennan.
This talks about subletting the airport hangar. I talked to Dinah earlier, and this has never been done on paper before. Is that a correct assessment?
Correct. It's done all the time out at the airport, and apparently their airport agreements, their lease agreements for the land says that if they're gonna sublet, I guess that they're supposed to get permission. But this is the only person that's ever called me to ask if he can do that. So when he called to ask if he could do it, I said, well, I suppose we should put it on the agenda with your renewal and just make it legal. So- Oh, that's you?
And for a point of clarification, it's not the building, it's the ground
It's
that
the
it
land.
sits on.
They own the hangar.
And with that, I have no problem with the sublet, as long as our sublet agreement can say that they're bound by the same terms of the lease. That has to have an airplane or airplane parts in there. Can I ask what the intent is for subletting?
Yeah, I live in Boise, and when I came here, so all the airports up in Boise have like a 2-year wait list for hangars. So when I got here, I wanted somewhere to put my airplane, and I found a hangar for sale here, so I bought it. And then like 3 weeks later, out of happenstance, got a random offer to move my airplane up 5 minutes from my house. So I moved my airplane up to the hangar here, but I still own the mountain home hangar. So if there's no airplane, if I don't have my airplane, it's just sitting there, and there is a demand for hangars. And I have, of course, when I get it, like, make sure there's people in there. I have had guys call me and want to store their RVs in there. I told them that's not
Sorry. So I'm okay with it as long as, I guess we'd have to draft a sublet agreement, maybe. I don't know. If we do, I'd want it to have this.
Ordinance, our current city ordinance, right, has that it can only be airplane,
that would be
everything.
Well, and so does his current lease agreement says they can only have airplane or airplane related parts.
Paul, does that legally just transfer over?
It would. Well, when there's no privity of contract with whoever he would lease it to, but the original landlord, the original lessee, who's also a landlord now to the sublessee, is bound by, like, he can't say, well, they're not going to do whatever they want because we're out of. Sometimes we would require a sublessee agreement. We haven't been doing that, and I don't have a ton of heartache with that because our original tenant is still bound by all of that, regardless who he sublets it to.
Okay.
All right. Item E, gentlemen. Approve the request by
We
Matt
need to
Damon.
make a motion on that one first.
Yes, please.
That's what he's talking about. I don't know.
Oh, I'm sorry, I thought you went to the next one. I'll shut up, go ahead.
I'd like to make a motion that we approve the request by Matt Damon to be allowed to sublet the airport hangar at Row B, Lot 5 of the city airport.
Second.
A motion and a second. I'll call for the question. Councilman Stokes?
Aye.
Councilman Bundy?
Aye.
Councilman Brennan?
Aye.
Councilman McCain?
Aye.
All right, run down to item number G. Councilman Brennan.
All right, Mayor, on this, as typical with the process for committee seats, we've talked a lot about this in the past, and the council has, as a whole, talked about kind of maybe tweaking the ordinance as to how we bring appointees up, right? You make your selection, and then you bring it to us for a vote. What I'm concerned about on the 3 appointees, I guess they haven't been appointed yet, I would say, so I'll just go with that for now. The 3 appointees, one of them, I called or personally spoke to all 4 of them today. One of them said he's never spoken to you outside of a very brief greeting at the last airport advisory committee. So he hadn't really been interviewed or vetted, I suppose you would say. And another individual said the same thing. I was told that a current sitting committee member called or tried to speak with everybody and vetted them. And then in that process, there's an email from a city individual asking the current committee members to basically rate them, to make their choice as to who they would pick for our 3 vacancies. The problem is, I see, is that it feels like a selected 3 out of 4 members were picked. Paul Hibbard, who is currently a sitting committee member, was, for whatever reason, not chosen to rate the people. And I don't know the facts behind it. I can only make assumptions. I'm not sure my assumption may be right or wrong, but I feel like Paul Hibbard is kind of in that boat of siding with Ted Thompson, the current airport manager, and with our contract negotiations with Ted, Paul was not selected. So for whatever reason, we emailed 3 out of 4, and we only have, it's a 7-member panel, but not a 4-member panel. So with vacancies, is there a quorum of 3 out of 4 when it's a 7-person panel? Legal question.
Your question to me is, if you have a 7 panel, but there's 3 vacancies, of the 4 remaining, does a quorum of 3 equal quorum? Yes, that would be a quorum.
And so with that, I'm curious why Paul was not included in the selection process.
Okay. Lex came in. I said, "Hey, will you reach out to these guys?" And she goes, and we didn't. So we're thinking 7. We weren't thinking 3. You know what I mean? That was a quorum. So I said, I don't know if we can or can't do it with 4 because that's a quorum. We were thinking 7, and that's how it went. And Alexa just reached out to Bob, Rob, Tom, and AJ. And I said, hey, you guys vet them, because it seems like no matter what I do, if I vet them, we're not happy. If I do it together with a person, no one's happy. Then I went to do it with just go. You guys do it. That way, it's not a mayor's buddy or whatever. You guys, I just want to make sure that it wasn't me. So I asked Alexa. Alexa goes, well, that's a quorum if you have 4 of the 7. I was like, okay, well, there we go. That's how it happened.
Okay. So we were trying to avoid a quorum.
Yes.
Even though I guess technically now there was a quorum at the same time, and we didn't notify Paul. Secondly is in this chain of emails, one of the 4 sitting committee members wrote an email to Alexa and said that Justin and Ian was his selection. For 3 seats, he picked Justin and Ian. The problem is this email was sent on July 9th, and the 4th individual, I apologize if I offend anybody with names that's in the audience. Bob was not even spoken to or interviewed or vetted before this email from this committee member was sent in. So the email was sent saying Justin and Ian are my pick, and then today at about 4 o'clock, that same committee member calls Bob and says, hey, tell me about your qualifications or something to that effect, and are you still interested in this position? So, one, we're still, this individual is digging for information to make a selection when he's already made a selection. And for whatever reason, I mean, I don't know why we would send up information to the council or to the mayor when the full due diligence hadn't been done. It just seems like there's a favoritism game going on here. With the 3 members that were polled, the committee members, there's a tie vote amongst it, and ultimately you get to make that decision, that tiebreaker. When I look at qualifications, I'm not a person that thinks, especially for an airport committee, that every single member needs to be a pilot or a mechanic. I think there needs to be a smart-minded businessman on there to help, right? If every member of the 7-person panel were pilots, I tend to believe that they would protect themselves and their own personal interests in the airport and not the city's interests. That's a vast overgeneralization probably, but it could help, or I mean, it could happen. So, anyways, I tallied the votes. The votes are in, I mean, I'm not going to name each one of them, but amongst them, there's a 3rd place tie. And of one of those 2 members in the 3rd place tie, that is one of the members who said he's never spoken to you or to anybody. And so it just makes me wonder how we as a council get the nominees. Right? We're expected to know about these individuals and to talk to them. And one of the 4 is not present today. And so ultimately, I guess I'd like to not pass any of the 3 members that have been voted on until the 4th member, Paul Hibbard, can have a chance to weigh in on his decision too, and have a chance to interview the individuals.
Mayor,
Councilman Bunny.
if this time we're trying out the process of having a committee make the selections, then based on the legal counsel, I mean, can they form a quorum to do this? And they also should know that we're not bound by their recommendation also, correct?
Let me clarify what I mean. So as an advisory board, it's just basically advising you.
Correct.
I'm not getting all bent out of shape about a quorum on what that definition is. That whoever they are, they can get together and they can try to make a recommendation. Otherwise, they can't meet at all. But just so I don't give the wrong impression as to Robert's Rules of Order, let's say you guys or a planning and zoning commission or something like that, that is a statutory creation. A quorum is, the 3 of you. If you have a planning and zoning commission that has a bylaw that says you'll be 7 people, and 4 people quit, and you only have 3, you can't meet. There is no planning and zoning commission. So a quorum is 4 on a board of 7, even if you only have 4. It's still all 4 has to be unanimous for a board like that. But for an advisory board, one of these things that sort of serves at the pleasure of the mayor type of thing, I don't get as bent out of shape about the definition of quorum on that. I mean, they have to do something, they have to function a little bit. And all they're doing is giving him a recommendation anyway.
Sure.
So I'm really not all bent out of shape about the quorum definition. So I don't want to mislead anyone. So you understand the definition of quorum when there's a vacancy.
In the history, Nina, of all these appointments, has there ever been an issue?
Well, Mr. Mayor, Council, actually, in the past, they've never even interviewed the people. It's just the mayor used to contact somebody and say, is this who you want? And sometimes he would go to the board and say, who do you want on the board? They'd give him a name. It would come to the council would pass it. I never even had the people come to the meeting. I mean, the council never even talked to the people. They just got passed. So
So I guess that's the question. I don't ever like to say we've always done it this way. So I don't mind your questions. I don't mind the process or how you go about the process. I trust. I try to do it this way, and obviously it's not right. I try to do it this way. It's not right. I do it this way because I'm like, okay, you know what? Throw my hands up. I'm done. You know. Then I try to do it that way. It's an advisory board that's supposed to advise me. I was at the last airport meeting. 3 guys quit, walked out. And if I do remember, we were going to get rid of the board or put it on hiatus. You had said, you know what, you said, and correct me if I'm wrong, that you were like, it's frustrating, you know, that let's just put them on hiatus. So I came there. I was getting ready to put them all on hiatus, or just let them know that we're going to put them on hiatus. And then we'd bring it back to the council. My goal in everything I do for this city is, one, does it benefit everybody as a whole, every citizen that lives inside, or actually everybody? Does it make sure that the SMAT passes the smell test? Am I going to put somebody on a board that might have a potential vote to give themselves a pay raise? I think that's a conflict of interest. You work for somebody that you might have to, there be a conflict of interest. I want to make sure that airport here moving forward, as all these gentlemen said, they make it the best that we can make it. And here moving forward, I think we have some good motion right now. You know, I know Rich, myself, Toby, some of the airport people. And I have no problem with anybody on that board, whoever we put on there, just as long as they do their due diligence and that the citizens come first in Mountain Home. That airport can at least turn a little bit of a little sunshine out there. You know, we have great flying weather. We should have a lot more seats coming in. We have a lot more cycles that should be coming in. But at the end of the day, they recommend to the mayor, which the mayor puts it on here to recommend to you guys what we should be doing. And if we're going to put them on hiatus anyways, I don't understand what the big deal is. Those were the guys' picks. So take them, don't take them. Let's put it on hiatus. I don't. It doesn't bother me anymore. I can't win. No matter what I do it this way, I do it that way. I try to appease everybody, and I lose every time. And I guess for me, it's frustrating. So I trust Tom. I trust AJ. I trust Bob. I trust Paul. You know. And I was trying to make it where there wasn't a quorum because I was afraid of that too. So here moving forward, that's where I'm at.
Mayor?
Councilor Brennan.
I'm not afraid of the quorum either. In fact, like even if it was one of those statutory things that the attorney talked about, is to call a special meeting and to let them have some group discussion. Ultimately, I do appreciate the process. Some of the current committee members were much more interested in this than others. Some of the members I called today said that they only had a chance to speak with Tom Hogue, and a couple others said AJ Lewis. As far as the other current sitting members, I don't know that they did any research. Not that they have to.
Yes, Mayor. First of all, I got a phone call from you today, and I was kind of thrown on guard. I'm turning wrenches and stuff, and I had to step out. And no offense to you, but I was kind of intimidated a little bit. I didn't realize you're a cop till about a half hour ago. I'm not used to that, even though I've been in the military for 12 years. Aviation's my hobby, and I don't want it to see it turn into something going down. I did talk to AJ. I made some phone calls. I did put in some work. It's just everything was going at me all at once, trying to change from mechanic over to now over here. My mind, I didn't have a lot of time to shift gears. So I did.
make some phone calls. I did call some. I just didn't quite understand all the questions that were being thrown at me. So I couldn't think on my feet as fast as you'd like me to. So I apologize for that.
What I'm talking about is not applying to you as the applicant. I was talking about the current seated members, and because they're the ones that got the email that said to reach out to you guys.
Well, yeah, but you also said that those individuals that are looking to be part of the board didn't make, I did try to call and learn as much as I could during that time.
I don't, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't feel like I pointed that towards the four of you that are on this list. My comments were towards the other members.
Okay, that's fine too, but it was kind of caught me off guard. So
I think here moving forward, if you guys, it was, the committees were founded with Eder, right? Back in the day.
Mhm.
So that he couldn't have to be everyone to everything. He goes, you know what, I'm going to take you 4 group because I know you, I trust you. I'm going to take you 4 group or 5 group or 6. I trust you. And that's what they're supposed to do, is to help me make a better decision at the end of the day. I don't see what the big deal is as advisory. I mean, now maybe planning and zoning, or like you said, you might want a business person, just like the library one. It says business or degree or whatever it is. Like, fine. I want every board member or committee man or whatever we call them to be different. I don't want them all to be the same. And so I'm sure Paul has a different thing than Tom and Ian and and Martin. I bet you they're all different. AJ's the FAA guy. AJ brings a lot to the table. I trust AJ. I don't know. That's just my 2 cents. I just can't win.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilman Gladdy.
I'd like to recognize the willingness to jump into a committee that these 3 people have done. I appreciate what you're doing. Nobody reached out to me with problems on the nominations. I'm going to make the assumption that the names that were given to us are going to work hard and do their due diligence. I will make the motion that we approve the airport appointments: Ian Moret, Justin Page, and Martin. That's my
Councilman Stokes.
I have a quick question. Sorry to interject, Councilman Mundy, for Ian, Justin, and Bob. It's just a really direct question, so don't take it too personally. Do you have any personal or private business with Mr. Thompson or Mr. Hope?
I have a plane in Tom's hangar.
Okay.
I know Tom because he says, "What are you doing?" And I'm working on my plane trying to get stuff out. So he's just a good kind of a mentor to me, if you want to call it.
I came into this as a private contractor to the airport, to the FBO, offered my services to Ted, drew up a contract. It's a private contract between the 2 of us, and that's the way it is. I have no obligations other to than my wife. And my job of 35 years, over 35 years. I'm a trained professional, and that's the way I deal with stuff. If there's personalities and all that get involved in it, I'm not involved in that. And I think I told Mr. Brennan that today too. I approach things because I am a professional. Every time my name goes down in that logbook, I'm criminally liable for that aircraft and the people in that plane. That's how I take my job. And I'm rather disappointed. I really am, because the day after that the gentleman walked out of the meeting, I went to the mayor's office and I gave him my resume, and we had a pretty cordial talk for about an hour and a half. And then I get 2 weeks later, I get a phone text from one of the sitting members on the advisory board. I'm not going to name him because he didn't leave phone number or any contact number, but I knew who it was. And then 2 days ago, I got a call from Tom in the morning. Actually, I didn't get a call from Tom. I had a phone call to my house, my residence. I never gave that number out except to the mayor. And yet that was released and I had a gentleman calling my wife looking for me. He wants to vet me on the phone. She gave him where I was. I was at the airport. I'm at the airport sometimes 6-7 days a week. And I get a call from this gentleman had my phone number. He could call me at work. He did. He called me that night when I got home. Okay, fine. We'll talk. And I told him everything that I told you. Today at 4 o'clock, I get another phone call from another one of the sitting board members. And he wants to vet me. Well, I was clocking out. I was just leaving. I said, talk to me tomorrow. Call me when I'm here on the clock. So I'm rather disappointed in the way that was. When I was vetted for the other advisory committees that I've served on, I filled out a form. I was told to go to the meetings. There was 3 other guys at the meetings that had already submitted forms also, applications. We were vetted in front of everybody, and then the committee went back and decided who was going to get it. And that was at 2 other airports, and that was in California. So this thing is just really blown my mind. I'm really disappointed in the way all this was handled and the way it's gone. I offered my services and my knowledge of 35 years to the city to help try and develop that airport. And I see nothing but just a bunch of nitpicking and backbiting and, you know, people siding with one or siding with the other. I don't work that way. I don't. So I just assume I'll pull my name from this because I don't even want to deal with this crap. And that's what it is. It's ridiculous. It's being treated like, well, a bunch of children running it. This is a serious business out here. You guys can make a ton of money out there for the city. Correct. And you don't recognize it. You don't recognize who's got the talent. You don't recognize who's got the intelligence to do it, the experience to do it. You just want to sit here and fight and say, okay, well, hey, this is my buddy here, this is my buddy here. No, I've got a plane in his hangar. No, get out of here, man. You pick the best people for the job, and you're not doing it. You're turning your back on a real opportunity. And I've talked to other FBOs up here, and they laugh at you guys.
I agree.
And you ain't gonna make it, man. You ain't gonna make it the way you're doing it. And that's all I got to say. I put up with it long enough. 2 years of trying to do something here, can't do it anymore. So you guys, good luck.
All right.
Motion on the floor.
Yep. Second. Motion and second. I'll call for question. Councilman Stokes.
Aye.
Councilman Bundy. Aye. Councilman Kane.
I'd like to make one statement before I do make my vote, and that's, I did not hear one word either from anybody on any of this. And why only Councilman Brennan was the only one anybody could call, I don't know. But I look at it now as the board made a decision, so my vote's gonna be aye.
Councilman Brennan.
Councilman King, they didn't call me initially.
I thought they called hold of you.
I did all the research. And
Okay, I apologize then. I apologize. I thought somebody called you.
Councilman Brennan.
Not initially. Nay.
All right. Discussion decision on making a part-time communication assistant position, contractor position. Councilman.
Mr. Mayor?
Councilman Brennan.
What's the intent of turning this into a contract rather than an employee?
I guess flexibility. You want to speak on this one, Mike?
Sure. Well, Councilman Ray, as you know, I'm a retired Marine. I've got great health insurance. I basically don't need any of the city benefits that are provided through Percy. And I thought this would be going contract would be a good way to expand the position. My primary goal is to go from, right now I'm only working 19 and a half hours. we can be very reactive at times to things that are going on in the community. And I've said it for a long time, that the city needs someone full-time, they need some long-term planning. And I've got a lot of experience in doing those things for the Marine Corps. My last job for the Marine Corps was as the future operations planner for public affairs for the entire 3rd Marine Expeditionary Force. So that's quite a large organization. So I have that experience, I have that ability, but I haven't really had the time because I spend a lot of time reacting to things. So the real intent is to change it to a full-time position for what I'm worth, which I think that, the city has been a great opportunity. The city's been an awesome opportunity. And I even said in my interview for this position I'm in now that it almost seemed like divine intervention at the time. I was exiting the Marine Corps. I was looking for something part-time, specifically because I wanted to finish my degree to back my experience, 20 years experience in this field. But I knew I needed that degree to back the experience. At the time that I was in the transition assistance program classes, is when I found this position online, submitted an application, did phone interviews for it, and it was the perfect fit. Close to where I live, close to Boise State, part-time, allowed me the flexibility to do that. Now that I've accomplished those goals, it's time to up the pay scale to what I'm actually worth and what I've been doing for the city, and to expand that to a full-time position so that we can be more proactive with our communications programming and help the city become even more transparent. Which I think we've done a lot of things since I've started here to improve that, but there's still more that can be done.
So with that, currently you're at 19 and a half hours, and transitioning to a contract, not employee, but a contract worker, I suppose is the term, maybe? Contractor. There's no regulation on your hours. It could be as little to achieve the mission or
There's not, but I can give you what it's worth, what a verbal reassurance is worth. My intent is to change this to a full-time position for the reasons that I just described to you. So even though the contract does say that my hours and days and things like that can't be mandated, and that I am in complete charge of the things that the communication plan and the order of work that I do, that's great to have that freedom, but that's not going to get that contract renewed for me at the end of the year if I just don't show up and don't do the things that I say I'm going to do. So so again, my intent, I can assure everyone here that I will be here 40 hours a week doing the things that the city of Mountain Home needs to be doing, and looking to the mayor for prioritization of those efforts.
Does that include working from home or strictly in the office? Yeah.
It absolutely could, depending on the developing situation with COVID and how the city sees these things. We saw that there are many things that I can do from home during the initial COVID shutdown and work from home for about 2 weeks. But we also saw that there were certain other things that I really needed to be here for, tech support, things like making this live video happen. There were a lot of struggles with that during that time when I was out of the office.
Okay.
So primarily it would definitely be here, but there are probably certain things that through conversations with the mayor, changing circumstances, however that happens to work out, where I'm willing to work from home as well. Sure.
Thank you.
He's got a lot more things we have on the table for him, and he can't do it in the 19 and a half hours either. He's got to go down and do videos for every business that's affected by the downtown project. He's got a plethora of questions and answers that he has to get to that you just can't do it on. If you ever done any video editing, it takes a while. Took me 3 days just to do a 30-second commercial for, not commercial, but when I did the one up on the water tank, it took me about 3 days, and having my son help me, and we've got him the software, we got him the systems, he can do it a lot faster than I can. I don't have time to respond. is I'm sure you all get them, all the emails from everybody. There's just not enough time in the day for me to do it. As much as I stay off Facebook, I do not want to get on that realm. Mike does all that. But he also gets out the important messages. He helps us articulate our verbiage, and it definitely makes it sound like we're at the right place and time. Mountain Home is morphing into, as you guys are all aware, something great. We're at the precipice, and I think with him and Brock, be able to put that message out, sky's the limit, and that's where we got to be. And as Bob said, we are the laughing stock in all of from Ontario to Twin Falls to the airport. That's where maybe now what we do is we change our message. We get these new guys on here. We let them, and with the current ones on there, we get to have him put that message out, and we start advertising and say, hey, Mountain Home's where you want to be. And we change that. The downtown project, there's a ton of information that Brock doesn't have time. Brock is obviously doing 2 roles. So right now, Chief Moore usually has to have stuff put out. Chief Connors has stuff that, usually he does most of it, but if it's something that needs to go on the city website, Mike's got to get it. So there's a lot of departments. Parks and Rec does their own, but then sometimes we have to get that out as well. So every department head has the ability to work with Mike currently and definitely get out the message that we need to let inform the citizens and make sure that they're getting the most updated accuracies. Because we all know fake news is out there, even in Mountain Home, Idaho, and it's bad. A lot of people just say stuff, and then Mike's got to get on there and correct it. If not 24 hours a day, pretty darn close. So he's running the gun, and for that 19 and a half hours, we could definitely use him, utilize him a lot more. Sorry, Councilman.
Oh, you're fine. Some of the things I was going to bring up also, so thank you. I think going to a contract employee based on the things that you said for benefits is a good idea for the time being. We'll save the city portion of the payroll taxes. Those things will all be handled differently. I also noticed in here that there is the 1 hour recall if something happens. The mayor, we could call you to be back in here in the evening for some emergency that you needed to pass information. So that's in there too, that if he's at home and we need him here, we can call him here. Now, my question for Paula is if we go from 19 and a half hours to this contract amount, are we just going to continue that, the salary line, or are we going to increase the salary line? How are we going to make up for that delta?
Mayor and council, what will happen is we'll move Mike out of the salary line in admin, and then he will be paid out of professional fees. The difference in what he currently makes and what he's making now will be about $7,000, which we won't be using a planner now because we have Brock in those professional fee lines, so that will adjust and we'll use that.
Well, that was kind of where I was leading with that question. So basically going from 19 and a half hours to a full-time contract is going to cost us about $7,000 more.
Right.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Mayor.
Councilman Stokes.
Considering everything going on and hiring a new community development director, I think this is a good idea. I like us looking forward and looking ahead, projecting to the growth. So I'd like to make a motion to continue forth and make the part-time communication assistant position a contractor position.
Mr. Mayor.
Councilman Brennan.
Paul, I'm not sure where that $7,000 number came from. I had a chance to talk to Nina earlier today, and it's with respecting his current pay amount. What we talked about is going from his current pay to the $4,000 a month is tripling his pay with an annual salary difference on my calculation $32,400. So
did you just look at his hourly rate, or what did you look at?
the amount before.
I just went into the computer and told him what he made monthly for the last 4 months, I think it was. He wanted to know how much he made, and so I just looked up what he made for the last 4 months and told him.
Okay, and then did that include the taxes that we pay?
I didn't.
I gave him the gross amount, so I don't know what that would have. included.
So what does he make annually, I guess? With what you have?
So on the higher end of the average, $15,600 gross, right?
We didn't figure,
Before,
it was about $1,300 gross a month average for the 4 months that we looked at.
right,
That was all I went, I was like 4 months.
$1,300 to
$1,300.
4,000,
Times 12? Is that what you did?
right? The difference of that times 12.
Okay, and that total was
Hold on.
$13,000?
What figure did you want again?
What he makes hourly.
That would be
Well,
16,800
monthly.
versus.
Mr. Mayor, I don't know, is it appropriate to talk about wages while we're,
Well, I was trying to avoid the
Yeah.
exact numbers.
okay. I'm trying to protect.
Actually, it's
So-
all public record.
That's all public record, so
Yeah.
it doesn't matter.
If you're moving from the salary line, I mean, can I use your budget book, Mr. Bendy?
So the 1,300 times 12 is 15,600. 4,000 times 12 is
But did he work
48,000.
19 and a half hours, and if you use the last, the budget
The
book,
ring bagger one.
we were in lockdown. So I don't know if he was here.
Like you're saying, like he's furloughed and didn't get paid?
No, I was working from home.
He's working from home.
I was getting paid, the hours were close to the same time, sometimes slightly over the 19 and a half hours, by an hour or two, basically, because we had so much updating to do.
So I have that he makes annually $32,157. And that was at $15.46 an hour.
Okay.
Okay, so if you did the 4,000 then, so it would be 4,800. Originally, we had a different number.
48,000.
Yeah, 48, I meant 48,000. So you would just need to subtract those two. You have in your professional fees line, you had budgeted for a planner contractor next year. Well, we don't need a planner contractor now because we have Brock who fills 2 positions. So, but that money was already in your professional fees line. So that difference of moving Mike from the salary line, that 32,000 was straight, and then there was taxes added into that. You moving down out of Dinah's line into the professional fee line, you still have enough in there without making any adjustments to your budget.
We're just reallocating
You're just
after
moving-
after we had just finished the budget.
Right. You're just-
So
I just need to know if you want to do the position and if you want to do it as a contractor so that I can move him from the salary line down into the professional line.
I'd like to do it as a planned move. Like we've denied this to similar like pay raises and stuff mid-cycle to other people because it wasn't directly in the budget. Yes, the money's available, but that's not.
The money's available.
But that's not what we budgeted it for, right? Each department had.
Yeah, this doesn't start till October.
Right.
This
It wouldn't
doesn't start till
till the next
October 1st,
budget.
and that budget cycle's not, she can still move something to that. It hasn't been advertised, published yet, so she can still move that budget.
So it would come before the council for a.
No, that's what it's here for now.
So each department head though allocated how much they need in professional fees and services, right?
Which included a contractor position for a planner. So we don't need the planner now.
What was our move for the planner? Because we
hired Brock.
We got Brock.
I know Brock's back there. So, but we took Courtney's salary and gave it to him, and we also took money from somewhere else to give it to him. Where did that come from?
Correct. So he's 6 months economic development, whatever that's called now, community. And 3 months in water and 3 months in wastewater. The same thing is with Mike Freeman. Mike Freeman was 6 months in Nina's, and he split 3 months in water and 3 months in wastewater. It will be the same. The professional fees are in Nina's, streets, water, and wastewater. So it will still just move. We'll increase this down 32,000, but we're not gonna make up that difference because it's already in there. I don't know if I'm making any sense.
It was already budgeted in there. We just never, I guess,
We're just moving it from one line to another.
right.
In the budget process that we're in the process. of
Correct.
creating.
And it won't start till October. But if I don't move it, then her salary line is gonna skew.
It'll be negative.
If you appoint that position, yeah, her salary line's gonna have more and your professional fee is gonna have less because you're gonna be paying him out of those professional fee lines.
Okay.
Sorry, did I help
So,
at all?
so Brock is 6 months paid out of enterprise funds.
Yes, 3 and 3, water, wastewater.
Okay.
Because he plans for them.
He plans for the city. Everybody.
And you said it's the same as Mike?
Yes,
He's
Mike is the communication for
For
the
the entire
city.
city.
And he's currently already split that way. So
3
it's
and
not a
3?
new split.
Right,
Yeah, 3 and
okay.
3.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to remind you that we have a motion and a second.
I want to make sure his answer is good answer.
Thanks, jeez.
Guess nobody should talk anymore.
Said, call the question. Mike, I hope you don't feel like I'm devaluing you. It's versus the hourly rate or monthly salary. What I'm looking at is essentially the scope of work or the military performance work statement, right? For how much you have to do and how much is required. And as a councilman, I don't get to see a lot of your final product, right? And some of it goes beyond me and I never see it. So it's hard for me to jump for a discussion we've never had from part-time to full-time or whatever time you want to put into it to get the job done. So if the job stays the same and it's been getting done, is full-time really necessary?
The job really hasn't been getting done to the point that it needs to. So as I said, we've been very reactive, and as the mayor just described, bringing this position full-time will help get some of that support to the departments that have, in my opinion, been neglected by me. Tiffany is great, but should she really be doing 100% of the marketing for the Parks and Rec department when I could do it and make it better and bring more attention to that? We're now in our second week of, she just received 3 awards, 3 grant awards last week, totaling more than $35,000. Not a word about it on the street yet, though, because I've been busy doing reorganization of the website, shooting videos for downtown businesses who are affected by the revitalization construction right now, and some other things, little glitches that have been coming up. So that story is in just rough draft, half a page form now for a couple of days. Still waiting. This position needs to be full-time because we need to be speaking to people more often about more departments and giving them more detail about what's going on in their city so that they really understand. The more fact you put out there, the less opportunity there is for rumors to grow.
That's right. Mike, does this allow you to be more proactive rather than reactive as we have?
Yes, that's exactly what I'm saying. I don't have to, walk into the office when I've been out for 3 days and then realize that there's stuff that's been going on that hasn't been answered, or it's been being blown out of proportion on fake news sites, or the meeting completely altered. We can definitely do a better job communicating more clearly and more quickly with our constituents, the people that want and need to hear from us.
Right, Mayor.
Councilman Brown.
So in that equation, you're talking like the Facebook world with all the negativity and all that?
Well, sure, I'm talking about Facebook. I'm talking about our website. I'm talking about a more proactive approach to media relations with regional media from Boise and even beyond Mountain Home News, who is always very good about giving us coverage. But how far is that the furthest you want that reach to go? Is the reach that the Mountain Home News has, or do we want to start expanding that and letting more people around the valley and in the capital know what we're doing now?
And as far as like departmental related issues and all that stuff, can't our department heads handle their department and the criticism that they're receiving?
It's not necessarily departmental criticism, but let's talk about departmental achievements, accomplishments, and plans, and policy decisions and the reasons behind them.
Mr. Mayor, Councilman Bundy.
I try to swing in city council a fair amount, like a lot of us do. And I take the opportunity to go talk to the folks and find out what they're doing. And your point that as councilmen, we don't really understand what everybody does is valid. But when I go talk to Mike 2 or 3 times a week, maybe, when, you know, if you get there later in the day, sometimes he's gone for 19.5 hours, but he's always got stuff on the plate. If I go to water, they've got stuff on the plate. If I talk to Nina, she's always busy. I try to go somewhere in the city virtually every day. And every employee I see around the city, to include Mike, is busy and has plenty to do. So I know that's not what you're saying, what you said, but I'm confident that Mike is going to be minimum of full time. I think his work ethic, everything I see that he does, the products that he creates, I'm just trying to kind of alleviate a little bit maybe of your concerns. I really trust the question that has been posed to us. Do we need a full-time PR person? I think we do. I think as we, you know, the mayor mentioned the airport. I think if we're able to highlight the things about the airport, great. If we're able to highlight the accomplishments of our employees and their grants, I think people want to know all of the things that are going well in the city. And I think that's where this position is inefficient. And so I go back to, I think we're good. I really do. I trust Mike. I trust the mayor. I trust the folks that have requested this position. And as we create the budget, I think we're in good shape.
Mayor.
Councilman McCain.
Well, when I was back in the building department, I know that Mike was constantly running around. I don't know how he could do what he did in 19.5 hours. He had to have been working more than 19.5 hours and showing 19.5 hours, because I know he was here more than 19.5 hours, because I'd see him because he was in the office right back there until he got moved over here. So, and I don't see how it could be done in 19.5 hours, especially what he's talking about doing now.
So motion and I got a second. I call for the question. Councilman Stokes.
Aye.
Councilman Kane.
Aye.
Councilman Bundy. Aye. Councilman Brennan.
I don't know. I'm gonna trust in the other councilman because Mike, I don't see everything that you do. You've got a big old grin on your face already, like you just won. Because you did. No matter what I said, you did. So,
All right, let's do a really quick around the room. Who wants to go first, Chief?
Wait, still got one more.
Oh, man.
Don't forget me. I do parts on you. You got 2 more things. Yeah.
Discussion decision, okay, discussion decision on sidewalk cafe ordinances. Councilman. Brock, that's you.
That's me.
I'm just gonna say, I don't see anything.
Where would you like me to
Right
start,
there.
Mr. Mayor? All right, so the purpose of this discussion is with the downtown revitalization. We have expanded our sidewalks. We have a beautiful downtown. It's only going to get better. There are some growing pains, but I promise you, once we're that 6'9" center leading our team to state, those growing pains will be worth it. All right. So currently, we have individuals, businesses that would like to provide outdoor seating, which is exactly why we did this type of project, to create a central place so people can be outside. However, when it comes to placing things in the public right away, things get weird. We're all familiar with the Americans with Disabilities Act. We need to maintain certain pathways for them. However, a lot of cities are able to find a way to make this work. Twin Falls has done it, Boise has done it, Meridian has done it. What we need to do is partner with the businesses and have them acknowledge that they can be out there, but it's not theirs. we need them to acknowledge that if we ever needed them to move any of their furniture out on the sidewalk, they would need to do so in order for us to maintain that area. Therefore, we want anything they put out there to be semi-permanent in nature. I've spoken with the business owners. They seem very aware of this. You probably have seen Stonies. I think they are the best example of something really cool that we can see right out, just right outside, and that's temporary in nature. And I have spoken with them, and they're like, "Yeah, this makes total sense." But having them sign some sort of agreement with the city where they acknowledge that they don't own it, where they acknowledge if we need it moved, that they need to move it, would be great. We also have an amazing luxury by having our current legal counsel who has authored this type of ordinance before. So essentially what we are
All right, I love you.
So don't blow his head up.
Essentially what we're asking from council is for your blessing to move forward with an actual draft, an ordinance to bring to you for approval. Again, we've reached out to local businesses. That's something that we will continue to do. I believe what we are asking is very minimal, and we are helping the businesses try to diversify their models by creating an awesome place downtown where people want to be while still doing our due diligence and preserving those public right-of-ways.
Mr. Mayor, Councilman Stowe. So Brock, this was not in our packet, but you're asking us just to vote for a future reference or a future ordinance.
Correction. So writing ordinances can be expensive.
It'll take me time.
It takes time.
If you don't want to do it.
20 minutes?
Sure. If you guys were completely against this idea of saying we do not want to have that type of environment of our downtown, then why would I do all that stuff? So we talked, and that was only on like Thursday or Wednesday or whatever, and we talked and like, okay, let's put it on the council agenda next week, just saying, hey, is this something that you guys would like to see?
Okay. I think given the direction we're going with downtown, this is much needed and will be a benefit to the city. That's my opinion.
And I believe that we can draft a fairly efficient ordinance fairly quickly. It's something that he's done before, but we need to make sure that it fits Mountain Home. It's more than just a copy and paste. We got to make sure that it works for us. And know also, apart from this city sidewalk cafe ordinance, that we're going to have other ideas coming your way. As our Fire Marshal Brian, stated earlier today, food truck regulation is right on the horizon. City staff is currently meeting with food truck operators, with the Chamber of and also with the Chamber of Commerce and all of our community partners to find a way to still have this amazing food truck culture that we have while keeping everybody safe, while making sure that public utilities and everything is paid for and everything's fair. We have a lot of exciting things come up, so hold on to your seats.
But just so you know, that's where some of this devil is in the details on some of this, because for example, remember if you guys remember at the 1999-ish, whenever that was, the hot dog wars in Boise, because you would have, so the sidewalk vendor ordinance came out so that businesses can now have tables and stuff out front. Well, why not have a grill out front? And so suddenly now it's just like, oh, here we go. And then there's, stains and grease stuff on the sidewalks. And there was a lot of competition there because there's certain things that you don't have room for in your kitchen inside of these small little places in Boise. And so it started coming out onto the sidewalks. And now you have this intense competition with the brick and mortar, but yet the brick and mortar is actually now flowing outside. And what about the dangers, the fire hazards, and all that stuff? And then it's just tables then, and alcohol and stuff like that out front. And then so there's a bit of a balancing act on what'll make sense for Mountain Home, which is not necessarily what makes sense for Meridian or something like that. So that's just the dance.
Councilman Buddy?
I think it seems we're in accordance that we do need a sidewalk cafe ordinance. I would like you guys to keep us abreast of how it's going so that we could perhaps give you our input along the way,
right,
so that when we get an ordinance here, we're pretty well through the minutia details. So if, you guys will keep us as a part of the process and getting it going, I'll go ahead and make the motion that we approve the city to go forward on the process of creating a sidewalk cafe ordinance.
Question. I have a question.
Go ahead, Councilman.
Carl from ITD has talked to me about this same issue, but he hasn't, and he's the guy that, right, he's kind of the enforcement authority. He hasn't told me that there is any way for the city to get around the ADA.
No, you don't do an end around the ADA. That doesn't work.
So what do you know in terms of how do we get through Carl and ITD where he won't go shut the restaurant down? Or
is there enough sidewalk access to
So
allow?
there currently is. By adding that language, that ADA language in our ordinance, it just is a better educational tool because more people are exposed to it. So it actually helps us help ITD, and we're helping ITD enforce that rule.
Okay.
And it's also making sure that business owners understand that they don't own it. That they can be there, but they don't own it, because there may be times where we need to do maintenance. There may be special events where they're going to be asked to move their stuff, and we need them to acknowledge that, just so there aren't any confusions and there isn't conflict.
Mayor, oh, go ahead.
Mayor, Councilman. So if you were to look at stonings, for example, so when I measured that, just because it kind of just going off of that, and I heard Brock said that, there's in between that, what they've done and the furnishings lane, there's 5'7". So
for a wheelchair,
for 5 feet's the minimum you have to have. Okay. So there's 5 feet 7 inches in there. So
it's basically that line down the middle of the
it's right down the middle. So you got the furnishings that we can have our different things in.
Everybody's
right there. So that was kind of one.
basically, like Councilman Bunny said, it's a straight shot from one end of the sidewalk to the other, so the guys in wheelchairs don't have to do that.
It would be a little bit different, jump into the first block, because it's not quite as wide as that one. So as long as there's that 5 foot of ADA, then we're good to go.
Councilman King.
All I was gonna say was basically the same thing, that we can go shut them down and tell them to move their stuff out of their sidewalk if they're encroach on that ADA. We don't have to let ITD do it.
And along with the ordinance, we also want to do educational materials, so it's super easy to understand. And we just have an amazing public information officer now who can help us with a variety of things by educating the public. We can do a YouTube video showing them exactly what they can and can't do, so all that confusion is gone. That's education, education, education.
Should put this one before mine. Just kidding.
It's been motion and a second. If there's no more questions,
With a straight face, you should have said, I'm sorry, I don't have the time.
call for the question. Councilman McCain?
Aye.
Councilman Brennan?
Aye.
Councilman Stokes?
Aye.
Councilman Bundy? Aye. All right, really quick. Tiffany?
Mr. Mayor. got one more. The thing you added at the beginning.
Oh. All righty, discussion decision on implemented public safety tax relief proposal. Paula, you're up.
Mayor and Council, I know you guys haven't had a chance to do a lot of research on this, but I hope to be prepared enough to answer any of your questions. So Governor Little has an implementation of a public safety proposal, and what it would do would be waive the property tax increase for this year, and to cover the payroll costs of public health and public safety employees, and it passes a resulting budget savings onto Idahoans in the form of a one-time property tax relief. So as Paul Fitzer would say, the devil's in the details. We have also a letter that was sent in to Governor Little by 16 prosecuting attorneys where they have reviewed this, and they said at a minimum, and I can give you guys copies of this. I'm just going to kind of go over it, and then you can ask me your questions. At a minimum, the divide between our retrospective interpretation of the U.S. Treasury's frequently asked questions evidences that they may not ultimately approve the program, at least in regard to tax reduction conditions, and the conclusion that the plan would constitute revenue replacement as prohibited by the frequently asked questions. So Governor Little's proposal may not be approved by U.S. Treasury on the tax relief. It says that this proportionately affects rural counties with lower new construction rolls. So that is not going to help. I'm supposed to be giving you the pros and the cons. I reached out to several cities and mostly got cons. So I was like, you know what they said. And it says, while some local governments do not need the 3% increase this year, many do. This further creates an inequitable situation for property taxpayers in those counties which need the increase to provide their services year after year. There's a little bit more, but recognizing that these funds should not end up as a windfall to a local entity, consideration should be given only to covering expenses that actually exceed the budgeted amounts or that require taking funds from other lines to cover COVID personnel costs. So that's the way the attorneys are looking at it, to say if you had to cover additional costs on top of your payroll, that's what this tax relief should do. It's also every county, every city, every EMS district gets a shot at the pot of money that's sitting there. I got from Josh Dyson, there's 188 million. The letter says 200 million. So I don't know there's a lot of unknowns with it. That's the problem. There's a lot of unknowns. I can see it as covering the cost of additional, but I don't see it as covering the cost of just doing business. So with that, I know there's a lot to take in, but I can answer your questions, I hope.
Mr. Mayor, Councilman Stokes, there was certain stipulations in this property tax relief.
So we would put our name into the bucket and with everyone else, and once it's decided who gets what, you might get half of what you asked for, or you might get none of what you asked for. But at the end of the day, our property taxes are frozen, so we can't gain. And on average, the cost per household, what we've done with, and I'm saying on average, is $78. So it's $7 to $8 per month increase. Also, this was a hot topic in the last legislation. They wanted to freeze the property taxes with no relief. You would just be stuck where you're at. The pros and, I mean, it's 50-50. So you had that legislation that went in. They're already trying to freeze property taxes. If they put this program out there and they say, okay, the cities and counties didn't take advantage of it and we offered it to them, well, then that gives them more leverage to freeze it. But if you do take it, then they could say, well, you didn't need it anyway. You don't need your 3%. So it's a tough, but there is definitely a lot of unknowns. The more questions you ask, the more you get, well, what ifs, and we can't really tell you, and we don't have a clear picture on that.
Mr. Mayor, from my understanding, when you get your property taxes, there's all these lines. It's not a reduction of every single line.
Correct.
You might
For us
one.
at the city level, we would have to take all of the budgets you guys approved and put them back to last year's levy rate. So for the library, they would see a decrease. They'd have to go right back to where they were last year.
Mm-hmm.
There would be no progression on. Same thing with Brett, Cemetery, Airport. All those have to go back to last year's numbers.
And then the most important thing for all of us is the new tax rolls, the new builds, the new industries that come here. We see zero of that.
We don't get
And
that.
it frees.
Exactly.
So to me, I'll eat my $7 a month, knowing that one, for me as a mayor, I get to make sure that every person that works for the city will get their pay raise if they fall in a certain category. And then two, we're not taking the general fund money out of there, not giving anybody a pay raise and having to use that to, maybe if we did give pay raises, not have to do any projects. So what you quintessentially do is 69% of our budget is property tax, right? So if you could take 3% off that, you could take that out of stuff that we could do, streets, Parks Rec, everything would get a 3% hit. And then it's frozen. You don't get the new tax rolls. Councilman Buddy.
Also, it seems like when we were, when I was looking into this, if we do request the money that we may not get, we still have to go back to the old budget and lose the money.
Correct.
2019.
Yeah, you go backwards.
So,
And you're taking it away from our taxpayers and potentially giving quote unquote a windfall to some of the local entities.
Right, so.
That has some problems.
If Boise and Ada County, so Boise gets 730 million in property taxes. Ada County gets 80 million. For Boise, I can tell you that 60 million of that goes to fire and 71 million goes to the police department. Now, of that, I don't know what salary, it's not broken down for me, but I can tell you that a big portion of their stuff goes to those emergency personnel. So if they get in there and they get ahead of us, I mean, we're Mountain Home, they're Boise.
well, I'm sorry. So if we're talking about protecting Mountain Home City taxpayer money, I think we're best off leaving our property tax money in Mountain Home as opposed to throwing it into a bigger pot. So based on that, I'm in favor of maintaining that money here.
Same thing here.
And the hard part is it's going to get political. Everyone's going to say, oh, there's a representative over in the Treasure Valley that that believes that cities have too much money. And it doesn't help, and I'm not trying to call any city out, but it doesn't help when a mayor can cut $34 million out of their budget. That means there was a lot of fluff in that budget. I guarantee you I couldn't find $1 million in this budget, let alone we had to reduce things because we were 420 something thousand in short when we asked for all the line items. It's political, and that's because what that said representative looks at, he looks at enterprise fees. He doesn't look at the property tax. He looks at their enterprise fees, and maybe Nampa, Meridian, Star, Eagle, whatever, Boise has a lot in their enterprise fees. We don't. The taxpayers give us our money and impact. We do that. We do our best due diligence with the money that we get. We don't get to just have $34 million sitting around. So I want everyone to know that we use your tax dollars the best that we can. So with that, that's my soapbox. But I guarantee it's going to come back up, and they're going to say, your city doesn't care about its people, but we do. I want you guys to know that we do.
And when originally this came from the federal government for the CARES Act, there were no strings attached. When it got to the state started putting the strings on it.
And that's another thing that really chirps me is when the state gets a hold of the money, it just goes, you don't know where it goes. They'll tell you all this will break down, and I'm sure I'm going to get some emails from my representatives and senators, but it seems like I think your money is best allocated and allocated from local government, not state government. Just like that broadband, 100 million came out, then they cut it to 50, and then once the state got in it, because I guarantee the federal CARES Act didn't have any stipulations. They said, hey, go put broadband into your rural communities, and what do? They put so many strict rules that what you can and can't do. It's wrong. It's wrong.
And you may get it, may not.
Councilman Stokes.
I make a motion that we deny going after this public safety proposal.
Mayor, Councilman Brennan.
Paul, where did you say that money was going to be allocated to? You said public health workers and.
I think it says it on that.
Now, if the state were to say, hey, I want to pay all your EMS, all your fire department, all your police department payroll for their entire year, that's a pretty, the 180,000 versus the 4 million, that's a good roll, but it's not that.
It's for overages, correct? We didn't have any overages. Very little.
So for us, we paid hazardous pay during our lockdown for the employees that worked, and we get reimbursed for that through COVID. We'll have that in the budget next year, and then they can come back and say, okay, Chief Connor, let's say got $5,000 reimbursement. It's earmarked in his budget as COVID grant relief, and then he can come back and say, okay, I want to use it for this, because he's already spent it. He's just asking to say, I want to use it for a project.
All right, just a motion.
I make a motion that we deny going after the public safety proposal implemented by the state of Idaho.
My second. I thought he already did, but I'll.
The motion is second. I'll call for question. Councilman Brennan.
Mayor, I've been advised to abstain from this vote because I am a state level public safety employee.
Roger that. Councilman McCain.
Aye.
Councilman Bundy.
Aye.
Councilman Stowe.
Aye.
All right, Tiffany, I'm gonna jump over you, chief. Okay, sorry.
That was on time. Hey, how is everybody? All right, I'm just gonna give you the quick pool update. I will actually know more Thursday. Idaho Power will be out. They'll pull all their gizmos out of the pump house and see what that reading has, if you have any abnormal electrical spikes or not. So more Thursday. Well, then we're closed, and we're closed just merely for safety, because obviously electricity and water don't mix, and for the citizens of our community.
Mayor,
Councilman McCain.
how long do we still have for the pool to be open when it is open? What I'm saying, is it worth even trying to reopen it for what time we're gonna have left?
Yeah, so right now the date was August 8th, and so we've chatted with some people. I've asked the mayor if possible. We'll look at potentially extending the season if I have staff to do that. I mean, and we don't know what the school schedule is going to work out. Maybe I can have some high school kids work after school, and then I think that kind of will lead into one day if we get our new facility, maybe we have an longer season. So.
Right, thank you. I just know you've been down so much that it's, that's what I want to push for.
Any other questions? Thanks, Tiff.
Yep.
Chief?
Have a good one.
Thanks, Tiff.
You guys probably heard about our little protest we had on Saturday.
No, what happened?
So, yeah, so we had a pretty good turnout. I think there was almost 100 people there at one time. I think the counter protesters, by my math, probably outnumbered the protesters 2 to 1-ish. Hard to tell sometimes. I did have some concerns about whether or not the protesters were adequately protected by law enforcement. Without going into details, I'll assure you that they were more than adequately protected. And we did generate a couple reports, a couple accusations of assault, battery, actually a couple citations where they actually had enough probable cause, and some citizens signed a citation for that. But overall, it was loud but quiet. So success by the time we got out of here that night. Other than that, we're migrating and getting rid of the Windows 7 machines for the old computers. We're working on that project, and we're just about done with that, I think. So the IT people will be happy.
Okay. Shirley.
Not much new in the world of sewer. We did finish up the second harvest. Got it. We're pushing about 1,600 gallons a minute out to the farm, trying to get those levels down. So that looks good. And other than that, everybody's doing what they're supposed to do.
Question? All right. Who's next? Hurry up, guys. Come on.
I was gonna say Dave's got to be in there.
Right there.
Hey, they're putting 6 back together. Had a few pickups on it today, but they got it going, so we'll have that back up and running on Wednesday. So that'd be nice.
Any well issues because of that, or not? Well, tank issues?
No,
Because
because we have that extra tank. It has helped us out tremendously. I don't really notice a big deal by not having that well. So having that second tank has been awesome.
Who else we got back there? Start pulling them through there, Dave.
Okay.
Mayor, council, just real briefly, the fire department was hopping along. We responded to 6 calls over the weekend, nothing major, thankfully. And one of the things that we're doing is we're coming up with creative, innovative ways for training. So we're breaking up into groups of 3-4 groups and trying to keep our social distance, things like that in check. So we're rolling along.
Okay. Thank you. Come on in, Dave. Oh, I thought you said you wanted one more. Okay.
Community Development Department, extremely busy. Jamie is working on a ton of grants, especially associated with COVID relief. From what I'm involved in personally is just doing a lot of rewriting of our current code. We're working on the planned unit development section. We're working on our minor subdivision our minor division of land section. It's not subdivision, but we're just going to tighten it up so that when future development comes, that certain protocols that we have in there aren't used in a way that would be detrimental to the city. Again, we're rewriting our planned unit development ordinance to make it more incentivizing for developers to come in and do these new products that we desperately need as far as density and multifamily housing. We are improving our processes. We met with the building department. We're going to make sure that starting this next fiscal year, we put in that we want to have some electric plan review software, which we currently don't have. Hank has been doing it the old-fashioned way, where other cities have been using plan review software for the last 20 years. So we're going to catch up. We're going to get a scanner. We're going to be taking a lot of our paper files and scanning them into a database that's associated with each address within our city, so everything's more accessible. So a lot of work. We're going.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry I didn't get in and talk to you earlier today. How is the planned unit development coming?
The plan, it is coming along. I do have a draft that I gave to the mayor. I also sent it to our other counterpart at legal, to Jeff.
Don't give it a hand.
To kind of look at, just because he's our P&Z guy. He's familiar with land use. It's just making sure that, because you want to incentivize people to use it. Because right now, the way it's written, no one here wants to use it because it's very specific that you need X, Y, and Z. So I want to open it up and make it good for people to use, but without developers taking advantage over it and really doing something that's contradictory both to our zoning ordinance and also to our comprehensive plan.
Yeah, you don't want to create de facto variances.
Yeah, no, I was hoping that he'd come in with that plan review this year too.
Yep, but I do have drafts available, and I can certainly make those drafts available to you as well.
Could you please?
I've done it in such a way where I've taken our current ordinance, how we have it, all of my red line edits, and then what it's going to look like. So you can see the process and really understand that. I believe that's important, that we show our citizens the process as we change law, exactly what's getting taken out, exactly what's being put in.
Yes,
so
could you send me that draft?
I can send it to the entire council. Perfect. And if you have any questions, feel free to ask me. I know I've been educating Councilman Bundy about plan unit developments and essentially their role. If you have questions about comprehensive planning, if you have questions about zoning and why it matters, my door is always open, and I'm more than happy to help you make the best decisions possible.
Yep. As an FYI, which of course you all know, is if a staff member sends the entire city council like a proposed ordinance or something like that, you cannot hit reply all and start talking about it.
Right.
Because that's a meeting.
Right.
Okay. I knew you all knew that.
But do not reply.
I gave you like stuff in, number stuff in the thing. So, but I'm sure everybody's seen downtown started. So they're waiting. They started a little bit of the first part of the stormwater. They're at Jackson in Maine. So they had to redo the box there. Tomorrow, Intermountain Gas is coming to drop the gas main across the Jackson that goes in the alley, so they can start getting the stormwater all the way across. I would imagine that'll be done. They'll be pretty close to the end of Jackson by the end of the week. I would imagine start to turn the corner. Last Thursday, they did do the first water line drop, so we did it at night, and so that started about as soon as Curtis was done doing all of their dishes. We shut the water off and dropped the line. So they were there till about 5:30 in the morning. We turned it back on, and I was only there till about midnight. But they were there all night, and so that's going. They're going to turn it. Second was ripped up because there's the fiber lines that go out that are right there from CenturyLink and stuff. So they that was actually Track Utility actually did all the digging there today, and so they're going to work on getting the lines where they need to be down, and then that's why that's open right now. So lots of little things going on. So, but it's going good. So we took the trees down today. We cut down all the trees today that we're going to be cutting the project. So what's happening? So,
Question about airport fuel tank storage.
Yeah, he's
Yeah,
gonna, they're gonna be in, they're gonna come and inspect on Thursday, like
Perfect.
next Thursday.
Perfect.
They're busy doing, so they'll be in next Thursday and we'll look at stuff. So,
Perfect, thanks.
so Try to, they'll get it, hopefully give it, they'll look at it, give us kind of a budget, what it'll be and stuff.
Perfect. All right, Councilman, you had it, Paula? Nina?
Where's
Councilman?
Hank?
Mr. Mayor?
Where's Hank?
Thank you, Justin.
Wait, where is Hank? Is he out there?
Thanks for joining and helping us.
Oh, I wanted to give him a hard time not applying for that electronic planner this year.
I'll have to get on Hank, yeah. Council, got anything? All right, meeting adjourned. Hey, Paul,